employees like predictability. They like to know when we're gonna go home, what the schedule looks like, because they have a life too. We actually came up with an acronym this year called ADAPT. It stands for automation, delegation, anticipation, preparation, and training. You know, automating your business, having workflows and details go out to the team like the day before or the week of, so they can plan their nights and they know that there's X amount of jobs, this is what's going on. And that makes less hard conversations like, hey, we're gonna have to get caught back up. If they know what the week looks like before, they're on the same page as you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have all of what's in your head written down, then your team can't delegate the task. As I've been trying to grow, delegating the tasks has become harder and harder.
It is the duty of the leader. It's not your duty to do the work, it's your duty to build the systems and processes that do the work.
Yeah.
And delegate them. Welcome to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business podcast. We are sitting on a back deck here on a beautiful spring morning in, is it fair to say Philly or Westchester?
Yeah, suburbs of Philadelphia.
Yeah, so I'll let you give the local, like I'm not gonna try that, but yeah. Here with Aaron and met his team this morning, had a great time watching them roll out, get some good pictures and videos and stuff, and thanks for having me here, Aaron.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show. It's
Absolutely,
really cool.
Yeah. Give everybody kind of a, like, introduce yourself, your company, like what your team looks like, what kind of work you do, like give everybody kind of a vibe of what that looks like.
Yeah, so we have been in business since early 2018. Our core values have always kind of been, you know, designing and maintaining landscapes to the glory of God. We specialize in landscaping, hardscaping, outdoor lighting, and property management. We run a small team, big on quality. It's just me and two guys right now, and then we have a lady who's in the office. Without her, we couldn't do half the things we've done in the past.
Full-time or part-time or?
She's part-time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so she kind of manages all the behind-the-scenes stuff. We're still training her on SynkedUP, but you know, the whole goal of 2025 for us was to kind of build automation into our company, and that's why we originally seeked out to you guys. So
Yeah, and was King of Prussia this year the first time I crossed paths with you?
Yep.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, we've been going to the Techos show for the last handful of years. It's always inspiring. It gets the wheels turning for spring 2025 this year. So yeah, no, we saw you guys, a lot of our fellow competitors. We're like, hey, reach out to SynkedUP and building a community.
Yeah, how crazy is that when your competitors tell you, hey, like here, use this, it'll make your life easier.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I mean, it shows like the community.
Yeah.
You know, which I think, I don't know, it seems like more and more like with social media, it's kind of ushered in a new age of competitors actually like rallying around in more of a community aspect as opposed to just like, well, we don't talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think Paver Pete says it the best, you know, like when we sit down at the dinner table with a client, yes, we are fighting for the job, but if we all kind of have the same, numbers and we're all competing on the same playing field, we're not really competitors. We're just a different service provider. Mm-hmm. Similar to like Ford and Chevy, GM, like they're all truck
trucks.
manufacturers.
Yeah.
But it's the relationship, and our consumers have the opportunity to choose who they want to do business with, and that's what makes, being in that community that much better, because if we all, know our numbers and we're all in the same lane, we can kind of all make enough money to stay in business.
And like the Ford Chevy analogy, and in this kind of industry, the more of a commodity it is, the more you just get compared on price or features or whatever. But the more of a craft or an art it is, which often it is with this kind of like outdoor living spaces and stuff, then the more it's about like, well, let me pick the guy or the company whose style I like, or the relationship, you know what I mean? It's less of a commodity, more of a craft. You might be more of like, well, I go to that restaurant to buy that steak because they know how to cook it, the way I like it. As opposed to a steak's a steak's a steak. It isn't really,
No, like you said, like we're all artists in our own way.
Yeah.
And if you look at any job I've built over the years, everything is flowing curves. I personally like that.
And so that's your style.
That's my style.
That's your signature.
So flowing curves in the landscape and things that kind of come into, occlusion. that's me.
Yeah.
And when clients want that 90-degree, it's hard for me to think like that. But maybe that's someone else's lane.
And that's exactly what I mean. Like if a client wants that like modern minimalistic square cut look,
Yep.
well, there's probably a contractor that just loves doing that, right?
Yep. Yeah. And we'll adapt to what the client
Sure.
wants. But you know, when it's my blank canvas with me and the paintbrush, it's flowing. Curves.
And people see what you do, like on social media. So like, you know, if they're like, oh man, man, I love the way those designs look. Like I'm gonna call that person.
Yep.
As opposed to, you know, and that's one of the benefits of social media is people can get to know you and your style and your signature, and then the more of, you know, what you do, you get more of, because that's what people see.
Yep.
And so sometimes when people are like graduating or growing through their various stages of business, or like, I don't want to do that service anymore, well then stop showing it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because if you show it, if you do it, people are going to want more of it. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know you do maintenance and the design build stuff. Like, what's the split? Like, are you, like, in terms of revenue or energy? Like, are you?
I would say split right now. We're still a little bit teetering towards the maintenance side.
Mm-hmm.
More of that is from the fear of letting that money go.
The reoccurring.
You know, because project-based work is definitely a challenge to always have a full schedule.
You need the lead flow.
You need the lead flow, and that is challenging sometimes. You know, especially in varying economies and stuff like grass cutting. Everyone's going to need the grass cut. So no, I would say our split right now is like 70-30, maybe like 40-60. You know, we're trying to go more like 70-30 landscaping, 30% maintenance.
And do you, when you say that, is it because you'd be growing the landscaping, and the maintenance just kind of stays the same and you're not growing the maintenance, or are you thinking of cutting back?
Just kind of cutting back.
Okay.
Like we had talked about this morning, you know, just keeping a really tight-knit service area. To keep our pricing as competitive as possible, we've realized that running, you know, trucks that get 8, 10, 12 miles to the gallon, 30 minutes away, unless you have the workflow to support driving there, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And we, in the last year or two, have just, you know, started being realistic with clients. Like, hey, like, it's going to cost us $100 to mow your lawn, and it's a $35 lawn. We're just not the right provider.
And it's because of the
for you
windshield
anymore.
time. Right.
And
being real with that, instead of being like, oh, I like Mrs. Jones, I
Yeah.
want to, yeah, I know it's a $35 lawn, so like, I'm not going to do more than 45, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, it is what it is at the end of the day. If you're going to have that much windshield time to get there, well then.
Yeah, and that's what
yeah.
we really evaluated. And, you know, before even SynkedUP, like, we were keeping track on paper, and it was just like, the numbers aren't adding up. And as a small business owner, like, you have to be able to adapt. Like, you have to be able to say to yourself, it's just not working.
Yeah.
And learn the ability to say no.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that has taken me years to figure out, that maybe that's not the right client.
We are hard creatures to teach.
Yeah.
We learn through pain.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's true. Saying no to a client, like you said, don't post about stuff on social media that you don't want to incentivize. And I've said no to more lawn mowing clients this year because it's just not a lane that we're trying to grow anymore.
Yeah, and you get, and that is a really, I would say blessed or powerful position to be when you can say no, because then you stop taking on the things that is just sabotaging your success.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like desperate, then you take that $35 lawn that's too far away, and you're literally losing money doing it, but it feels like, oh, I'm
It
getting
feels
30,
like you're making
exactly
money. Until you actually sit down and understand that you're losing. You know, you just kind of don't know. And
Yeah.
you have the mindset of like, green money is green money. And when I look at SynkedUP now and I see a job that we lose money on, I'm like, that's red money. That is not good. Like, we didn't make anything on it. We actually paid the client to work there.
Paid the client for the privilege of doing the work.
Yep. And we spend way too much money in our overhead to pay clients to work.
Yeah, you can't. And you know, and in the lowballing pricing conversation, like with a client, like I kind of like tongue in cheek will joke about the, you know, if the client's like, oh, your competitor said they can do it for less, why can't you just match the price? And I was like, well, you know, I would be paying for the privilege of doing your work at that point. And if
Yeah.
I'm going to be paying, I'd rather go fishing or something. You
Yep.
know?
I'd rather hang out at the country club, go play golf for the day. And we joke about it now. Like after
Yeah.
I heard you say that, I actually say that
Are you serious?
to my project
That's
manager.
awesome.
Him and I sit down together and I'm like, I don't know. I said, that job we went and looked at, I said, their budget won't support it. And I was
Yeah.
like, we did decrease the scope as
Yeah.
much as we can. And I'm like, let's just go play golf. I'm like,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
relax.
yeah.
You might as well.
Because it's not your fault when the client doesn't have the money that they need for what they want to do.
Exactly.
And it's not like anybody's. It's not always malicious or nefarious. Like often people just simply don't know
Yeah.
what they want costs.
Yeah.
Right. And so as a salesperson or a business owner, like it's our job to educate the market, our clients, as to what things cost.
And that's one thing that's like we've really been trying to go back and forth with, like charging for proposals, not charging for proposals, and also pre-qualifying on the phone. Like that has been a little bit of a challenge. Like
Okay.
when we go and like pre-qualify them over the phone and give them like a bracket, you know, sometimes like you'll have the conversation be like, hey, like that's probably a $20,000 job that you're speccing out, and it may, and before you sit down with SynkedUP, be way different than that. But we sometimes lose the at bat to go even to the house when we say the numbers on the phone, and I try to figure out whether that's like just that's not my client, or maybe I'm shooting high.
Well, I don't know if you're shooting high. That will come from your experience. But what I would say is, what if you looked at it from the perspective of, I just saved myself 4 hours of getting a no. I got the no
There,
right
yeah.
there. And often I like to kind of like say it in that way. Like I want to, if I get a lead and I'm going to get a no, I want to get the no as quickly as possible, as early as possible. Because even from a position of like, I'm serving the customer, not myself, like I'm serving the customer, it's really embarrassing as a homeowner to be like, oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, oh, this is gonna be an awesome job. I tell all my neighbors, and I can't wait. Like, and they're like, you know, so excited about the project. And then you come out and realize that they're looking at a $50,000 job and they told you they have a $10,000 budget. And to them, they thought that's a lot of money. Oh, this is gonna be a big job. I'm spending a lot of money. It's $10,000. But you know, you don't know if $10,000 is a lot of money to them or not. You know, so you can't go by them saying, oh, it's a big job. Oh, we've got the budget for this. Well, we have to get specific. You know, and. The point I was getting to with that is that it's really embarrassing from the homeowner's perspective to realize that the things they were telling you they want is 4 times as much money as they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Now they feel bad, embarrassed, that it kind of want to like, sorry, you know, I can't. So why don't we work from a position of serving them and protecting them from that embarrassment, you know? So looking at it from their perspective too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody likes going to the truck dealership and you know, being embarrassed.
Exactly.
Like, you can't afford this.
Yeah, which is why I'm a fan of putting the sticker on the windshield.
Yeah.
The price on the windshield, because it's like, if that truck's 80 grand, I want to know before I even pull in your parking lot. I don't want to pull in there thinking, oh, that looks used. I bet I can get that for 40, and then you tell me it's 80. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry, never mind. I'm embarrassed. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
and
true.
maybe you're not embarrassed at a car dealership, but you get the idea.
Of course,
you know?
yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but anyway, back to this all connects back to the educating clients as to what things cost concept is probably, I don't know, 10 plus years ago, probably been longer than that now, we put pricing on Tussie Landscaping's website. And it was like ballpark pricing. Like, oh, this water feature could, or this size of a patio that seats a dining table and some chairs, you're looking at in the range of 20 to 40 grand. Like, so really wide ranges, but it was.
But at least you
it
have
wasn't
an
a
idea
quote.
going into
It was educating. The purpose was not to give a quote or anything. The purpose was to educate clients as to what things cost.
Right.
And that had been that single thing has been one of the most successful like tweaks that we made at the Tussie sales process, because you saved so much. Like by the time they called you, 3/4 of the time they'd already seen that page, and they were like, "Yeah, that's what I want," and I'm prepped. That you cut out the, I have a $50,000 vision and a $10,000 budget. Like you protect them from that.
And I mean, most of the time, by the time the client has made the commitment to call you, they've already searched every social media. They've
Yes.
searched through your reviews.
Yes.
And they know about 90% of what they want to know about you before they even pick up
That's
the
right.
phone. And that last bit that's like running a marathon. Like you wouldn't walk to the finish line, you would run.
Yeah.
And, getting back to people with, proposals, answering their phone call, answering their emails, that's the final bit.
That
and
is.
if you-
And that's
if you
also where
fall
you're going to
short
separate
there,
yourself. Yes.
That's the end.
If you tell them I'll get the proposal back to you by Friday and it's Wednesday and you haven't even talked to them yet, like, what do you think what message are you sending them about how it's going to be to do the job with you? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we're going to start in 3 weeks and then 4 weeks go by and they haven't even heard from you yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just an indication. So the best thing you can do, and it doesn't cost anything other
Yep.
than a little bit of discipline, is to like quotes back. It's professional. It's
Yep.
clear. It's easy to pay. It's easy to sign. All of that stuff. Like that is how you win jobs away from the cheapest competitor, because by the time they get back with their pen and paper quote, you're already signed.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
And yeah, I love that. Like it's in those little things that I believe that success is found. It's not in like, oh, well, we lay the paver better. Okay, all right, fine. The homeowner's not going to know that, but they can tell from the experience of how you serve them.
Yeah, a lot of, what I think differentiates contractors is the organization. What kind of organizations do you have that, are your machines well cared for? Are you going to have less breakdowns? Are, they going to receive a call back when an invoice isn't correct and you have to make a quick change? Like, higher organization, that's what they're paying for. We're all relatively doing the same thing. We're all laying pavers, we're all putting mulch down, we're all cutting grass. And what separates is the office staff, in my opinion. That's what I think what really makes the difference. I mean, skill is skill, but the communication is what the client
it's the sum of the
sees.
parts. It's the sum of the parts that make the difference, not the individual part. Often, not the individual parts.
Yeah, you can be a great technician and a terrible business owner.
Speaking of the E-Myth book.
So
That's right. Which is very often what happens is like, that's how we stumble into this industry. Like, oh, I like doing this work. Oh, I'm gonna start doing it. And then like you realize like, oh, knowing how to do the work and doing it well is what, 10, 20% of the whole, thing that makes a successful business.
yeah, no, and that's how we started. We started as a technician background, just kind of started mowing grass in mom and dad's neighborhood, and then, just kept going to continuing education classes at Longwood and, learn the technical side of it. And now my focus is actually being a business professional and using what I learned at Penn State and what I'm hearing from other professionals and just making it all kind of be one perfect, baked cake, so to speak.
What are some voices that you enjoy listening to in terms of like in this industry, like for business advice, or where do you derive some of your inspiration from?
Definitely like your guys' like email blast that you send out, like that little blurb stuff, it sets in. So that's a good thing. And, hearing what other competitors are doing, books they read. One thing that I heard from one of my management professors back in school was leaders are readers. And people that read books are usually more in the know of certain things. So that's actually something that I've been doing more recently, is reading like a book called Profit First. I forget.
It's in there on the kitchen counter.
Yep, sitting on the kitchen counter.
Yeah.
That book totally changed my business and being able to, manage the cash flow.
Have you implemented that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
nice. I was just talking to Ken yesterday. He's doing the same thing.
Yeah. And he has like multiple different, styles of it. Like they have a, Profit First for electricians, and it's all different industries. And I just read like the broad spectrum one and kind of piecemealed it together for us. But 5 different bank accounts, and down to the dollars and cents approximately how much you have in working capital. So yeah, that's been inspirational to me. I'm reading Good to Great right now.
Okay.
Just kind of trying to learn how to be a better leader, because our staff looks at us for answers. And if we don't know the answers ourselves, if we read about it or we learn about it, we can help, get them moving forward.
Which you were talking right when I got here this morning about the the encounter you had with one of your employees saying, "Hey, I don't know where we're going tomorrow, and it's driving me nuts." You know, like talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, so employees like predictability, and they like to know when we're going to go home, what the schedule looks like, because they have a life too, and they want to plan out their weekends as much as we want to.
And
And
if they can't plan, that's
if they can't plan, then it's just tough. So we actually came up with an acronym this year called ADAPT, and I'll kind of go into that briefly and explain how SynkedUP's helping with that, and also the difference that it's making being more disciplined. So ADAPT, it stands for automation, delegation, anticipation, preparation, and training. So, automating your business, having workflows and details go out to the team like the day before or the week of, so they can plan their nights and they know that there's X amount of jobs, this is what's going on. And that makes less hard conversations like, hey, we're gonna have to get caught back up. If they know what the week looks like before, they're on the same page as you. And if you don't have all of what's in your head written down, then your team can't delegate the task. And that's always hard for a small business owner because
100%.
we're so fixated on it being us, because our name's on the, as I call our work shirts, jerseys. Our name's on the jersey. And, we want to touch every single piece of it. We want to be involved. And as I've been trying to grow, delegating the tasks has become harder and harder. So
It is the duty of the leader.
yeah,
It's not your duty to do the work. It's your duty to build the systems and processes that do the work.
Yeah.
And delegate them.
and to stop and step back and let the guys learn and make the
Yeah,
mistakes.
right.
And because we always strive for 5 and 6-star service. And as the guys are learning, it's maybe like a 4. And trying to let them learn in a safe environment is really important. So
Having the freedom to fail even.
exactly.
You know.
And that leads me to my next point, anticipation. Being able to anticipate future problems before they happen is a huge characteristic of being a good leader. Like we had talked about this morning, our one project-based job, that it just felt like we hit every single snag that we possibly could have. We didn't anticipate the problems, and we didn't price it into the overhead to have problems go back to the supply house. So we lost a lot of money on that. And one of my great mentors said to me, you'll either learn a lesson or you'll lose money, but you usually don't do both. And I feel like I've learned a lot of lessons over the years by losing money.
Back to the thing from learning from pain.
Yeah, learning from pain, and we're trying to adapt our way out of that. So preparation is huge. The guys and I have meetings, and we prepare for the next job. Like I said this morning, we have our materials show up 1 week before we actually do the job.
So smart.
Because we ordered the lights, like I had said, and they sent us the wrong lights. So it's better to find that out before.
Not on the morning of the job site. Yeah.
We have $200 an hour team standing there looking at me for answers.
You cannot overemphasize that. Like the pain and the cost of discovering a snafu like that the morning of the job, like it is so expensive.
Yeah.
To the business.
Absolutely. And that's, another thing is training. Having the guys be able to go to the supply house and pick up the material you need. They need training to do that. And it's just having systems in place. So you talked about the E-Myth. That's actually the next book I'm going to read and learn how to implement standard operating procedures and, just create a culture that builds talent, not just expecting talent to come here. Because talent's expensive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So it's easier to
and it
build
doesn't stay in an environment where it can't flourish.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's really good. And you came up with that completely on your own.
Yeah. Adapt.
How long, did you sit down some weekend and just kind of meditate?
No, honestly, I just, I thought about small business in general.
Okay.
What a great small businesses do to become great big businesses. They adapt.
Yep.
They adapt to the size of their company. They adapt to the
Yeah,
changes.
typically what worked yesterday won't work tomorrow.
Yeah. And
as you grow.
And that's what we're trying to do. I keep telling my staff every day, we don't have to be worried about what happened yesterday. As much as it's important, we want to be the best version of ourselves today. And, tomorrow is a thought, but we're focused on right now. And we're adapting to have a better today, which will be a better tomorrow. And understanding that success isn't linear. It's an ebbs and a flow. It's a mountain, and it's a journey. And man, God is definitely helping me on this journey. It's been challenging, but yeah, it's just
And
adapting to changes.
Even the thing about let's worry about today. Even that's a biblical principle. Just what are you going to do about yesterday other than learn from it,
Yeah.
right? And the best thing you can do for tomorrow is be the best version of yourself today.
Yeah.
So
No, like when you come into the office in the morning, or the shop, as we call our office, is just having the best attitude. Like if everyone comes in worried about how yesterday went, they're not focused on today, and their attitude will reflect that. So we just try to smile. Life's hard, work's hard, but we all kind of get along. We smile about it. And
yeah, it's not
life
about
in the big cities, I call it.
Yeah, and it's like, I think there's this weird tension where, as humans, we want to crave easy and convenience and comfort, but at the same time, which is good because that drives innovation and all of that. But at the same time, we derive our meaning and fulfillment from doing hard things
Yeah.
and solving hard problems. You know what I mean? Like that's what gives a sense of purpose.
Yeah, one of my really good mentors, he owns a septic business. And one thing he said to me a long, long time ago was, people who want to be great at something, they think they have to make monumental changes. And he's like, when I first started my business, he goes, I would just change my whole personality. And he says, all you need to do is limit clicks. Just get better at one thing and get better at the next thing, and not focus on big changes. Little changes will make the big changes. And that's what we are really focused on in 2025.
I love that. 1% better every day. In your journey, what has been the most difficult thing that you have encountered?
Developing the talent is definitely really challenging. We're a small business, and there's small budgets, and that's a challenge. I would say that making the transition into project work is definitely a little different. Being able to have confidence in your numbers, price the jobs correct, and allocate every single resource and get reimbursed for that. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be comfortable with the little setbacks, because that's the building blocks. So that's been something that I'm working on, to just kind of realize that it's not linear, and that it's, one little change.
Yeah. And with the thing about transitioning into install work and the difficulty of making sure you're pricing everything correctly, what's been the hardest thing about that? Has it been like, I've never done this before, so I don't know how long it'll take, or what aspect of that has been?
I think overhead recovery is something that's kind of a challenge. For example, like if you lose big money on one job, you're like, we need to be charging $80 a man hour, for example. But you were charging $50 before. And when you actually go in and look at your numbers, you're in the sweet spot of that. So just kind of understanding your metrics, understanding your numbers, and understanding the team is a big part of that. And like you said, like some of this stuff we've never done before. Now, granted, I've learned from other jobs in my past where I've done it in the field, but it's similar to riding a bike. Like, yes, you ride a bike, but with training wheels. And until that, help is not there, you don't know if you can do it or not. And that's something that I'm still learning, is having the confidence in myself to just be like, we got this. And if you're not confident in yourself, the client can smell it. It's like blood in the water for sharks. Like they know.
Comes across. Yeah.
And so yeah, just being confident in yourself and knowing.
Yeah.
And being, production Aaron and estimator Aaron, you kind of have to find that bridge. So like, for example, if I price a patio job, I know I could go out there and do it in, say, 2 weeks. But if I send the least skilled team out there, it could take 4 weeks. So we got to figure out that happy medium and make sure that we're prepared and anticipating what can happen.
Yeah, the principle there is estimate according to who's actually going to be doing the work.
And that was something my cousin had said to me. He's like, you know, you could do that job in 45 minutes. Your other guys are an hour and 25. And he's like, who's paying the price? You or the client? And it like resonated with me so deeply. I was like, wow, I didn't think of it like that. And it's those little like things,
those
like
little
I said,
things
that
make
little
so
click,
much-
that
yeah.
little change
Yep.
will make such a monumental difference.
Exactly. Yeah. So often it's not like we want to think, oh, the solution, like the path to arriving at my goal is such a, like you've been saying, a monumental shift or some for big thing I don't know. Like I must not know, so I have to, whatever. It's usually the simple things. It's like the work just needs doing, or the data just needs recognizing the fact that it takes an hour and 20 minutes with your least skilled person versus you doing it yourself be 45 minutes, like that's just like, get real with reality and then build off of that. It doesn't matter how much you hate the fact that it takes your least skilled person an hour and 20 and it takes you 40. It doesn't matter how much you hate that fact or how much you wish it weren't true. It is true.
Yeah.
And you're selling the job and you're paying the guy for the hour and 20. So that's a training problem, not an estimating problem.
Yep.
And so it's just like getting your focus about like where the leverage is so often we get the leverage handle on the wrong thing, and so I love the example. It's a really good example of what to focus on and finding that lever. What is the best advice you've been given?
This might sound cliche and funny, but put God first. I know that like sounds kind of, funny to people who aren't religious, but without God, this business wouldn't be still in business. Like I'd said to you in the email, we're celebrating our 7th year in business, and we're happy we weren't a statistic of one that went under in 5 years.
I saw that. Yes.
But that's the God's honest truth. And a piece of advice, I've been saying it throughout the whole talk, is just, be happy with where you are today. When we all start our businesses, we want to be like that big business. We want to be successful, so to speak. So being content is something that's been really big for me, and just be the best version of yourself. It's like the way I've lived my life over these last 2 years. I feel like I've made a big change in my life in the last 2 years. It's just do the hard work now, and just don't ever be happy with just good enough. You want to be great. So that's been a piece of advice that's really resonated for me.
What sparked that shift 2 years ago?
Almost losing this company.
Okay.
We were just running and doing the work and not focusing on the job costing and things like that. And, just the whole goal was I worked all these years to stay in business for 5, and I wasn't going to stop. And I just said, the only way to change sometimes isn't looking at the people who are with you. It's looking at yourself and looking yourself in the mirror and saying, what have I not adapted to? And it was like I told you, automation, delegation, preparation, and all those things. It was what I wasn't doing. So that's how I changed. It's just
super interesting. And the looking in the mirror concept, like,
and it's hard to do. Believe me, it is hard.
It is. Yeah. Taking ownership. I love that book, Extreme Ownership, which I'd recommend you read. Like, it's such a. It was the first book that I read that I would say changed the way that I think. It's like, okay, so the employee is screwing it up for the 6th time in a row. Well, at the end of the day, it's still your fault.
Yeah.
It's still my fault because I didn't train them properly, or.
And that's something to build on. That is, my cousin and I talk about that a lot. Like, if something isn't done correctly, I'm like, I used to say, well, why are they doing it that way? Like, what is wrong with them?
Yeah, right. That's the
and
natural.
Everyone wants to say that. Like, it's always someone else's problem. And now I say, as I've been reading more books and learning more about leadership, is what did I do wrong?
Yes.
What did I not train
How did I
them
contribute
to do?
this?
How can I change this?
Yeah.
And taking that responsibility, because at the end of the day, the leader is responsible.
Yeah.
The crew leader takes ultimate responsibility, and You know, you have to have everyone's best interest at mind.
And back to your point about systems and processes, like if an employee or something's going wrong again and again, it's like, well, did you define
What's expected?
what's expected? Did you define the definition of done? Did you define the process? And if you haven't, well, then you have a process problem, not a people problem.
Yeah.
Now, if the process is defined and you have clearly described the definition of done, and you have presented it to them and they told you they understand it, and then it's still happening, well, okay, now you might have a people problem, and then maybe they shouldn't be working for you, you know. But like so often we want to go straight to, it's that guy, you know, that's why this is all screwing up. It's like, well, back to your point about looking in the mirror, it's like, have I described what success looks like? Have I described what the definition of done looks like?
Yeah.
You know? And if you haven't, which we, you know, as entrepreneurs, like we probably haven't.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
it's you know, getting that stuff in your mind into writing. Like when we do the morning rollout, we didn't do it this morning because we're mowing grass and the guys kind of know that procedure. But when we're doing a project-based, you know, startup, there is a complete internal notes section. Load the following tools on the truck. How many times have we gone to the job site and we didn't have things? Like yesterday we did a project and we needed to have our mini climbing chainsaw. And there was a sizable 6 to 8 inch branch that I needed to take off. And I was like, it's gonna take 45 minutes to go back to the shop and get a little chainsaw. I was like, I'm gonna hand saw this. Learning by pain, Weston, like you said. I had to hand saw this little thing off with a pruning saw. And, but I didn't put it in writing. So it was shame on me that I was trying to remember we needed the chainsaw. So Aaron had to pay the price.
Yeah.
And had to do it by hand.
The way you describe that story just reminds me of the James O'Cleary book, or James O'Cleary's Atomic Habits book, where he says you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your processes.
Yep.
Meaning your goal was I'm going to remember that chainsaw, but it wasn't in the process, so guess what? It got missed.
Yep.
And you know, so it's just a little practical example of that.
And it, you know, to my point about leaders or readers, you know a lot about books. I can see that, and it's commendable for sure.
Thank you. It's it started with extreme ownership and kind of went from there.
It's like a catalyst. Like
Yeah.
you're like, wow, like I learned something from this
Yeah.
book, and then you want to do more. They don't have TV shows about how to become a millionaire or how to run a business. They're
Well,
usually
and
in
even if
books.
they do, like I'm thinking of what's that one, The Prophet, Marcus,
Yeah.
that one. It's built for entertainment.
Yes.
It's not built for actually learning how to run a business or to grow entrepreneurially. Or,
Yeah.
You know.
They put that in the
Yeah, I
books.
mean, if you are an entrepreneur and you're watching for the little nuggets, they are there, but they're written and shot for entertainment at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, but it's still like doesn't mean they're worthless. They're not.
Oh, no.
It's just the real life, learning from pain. You know, real life at the end of the day is because like it's this thing of like. Somebody might have told me once, and then twice, and then 3 times, and then 6 times, and then 11 times about like, hey, you're gonna get burned. You have to pay attention to this. But it's not until I encounter the pain that I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you are right. Yeah, it's like I tried to tell you, yeah, but I didn't really believe you. You know, it's like,
Yep.
I don't know what it is about. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's a human experience. I don't know. But it just seems like we have to. We can be told that the stove is hot, but we won't believe it until we touch it ourselves.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's true. It's definitely true.
Anyway, if you could go back to your beginning, the business days, what is one thing you would do differently?
So it's funny you say that. One thing that I've actually personally done this year is I'm on the board for a local tech school in the horticulture program. It's called the OAC Occupational Advisement Commission. And if I could go back and do it all over again, what I would learn more in the beginning is systems. Learn how to recover overhead, because back to the point of technicians and business owners, a lot of us come from a technician-based background.
Yep.
And we always kind of have this hope that it'll all work out and it'll just, you know, if we work harder, we can make more money, and that's not a reality. And I've learned that the hard way, where it's like you have to learn how to become profitable to be profitable.
Yeah.
And,
Working harder going backwards just digs a bigger hole.
Yeah, like if you're buying more materials and you're not charging for them, now you're losing money. And, you know, the more money you spend to try to make more, it's not good money. So that's something, if I could go back and really learn, is something I would do.
Just systems thinking.
Yeah, systems and just being able to catch a runaway train before it really runs away. And that's why I'm part of this Occupational Advisement Commission for this horticulture trade school, because they are the future of this industry. Being able to train the youth in something that's meaningful so they don't have to make the same struggles. And I think that it's all there. You know, everything is there, and you just have to seek it. So that's what I would go back
I
and
really
change.
appreciate that. And one of the things that I really do, you know, appreciate about the new age of social media, so to speak, in the last 10 years is how much information is out there. Like, you know, like it's like even these books and stuff. Like as a contractor today, there's really no excuse to do some kind of something technically incorrect on an install process. Like the information is out there, you know, it doesn't have to take 20 years to learn how to implement proper systems. You know, like, you know, when I think back of what it would have been like to run a business in the 80s and 90s, like, I'm like, wow, like, you know, it would have just been different. Like, you would have had to learn so much of your own things the hard way. And today, there's such information is no longer the bottleneck.
Yeah.
It's more the execution and the implementation, which comes from the leader.
Yeah.
Which is the bottleneck. Your ability to grow yourself, you know.
Yeah, like
through
it's out
systems
there.
Thinking. Yeah.
It's totally out there. And if you look for it and are willing to, you know, put the time in, it's like going to the gym. I mean, if you don't work out, don't eat clean, and your lifestyle and your physique will match that.
That's right.
And, you know, doing a lot at one time doesn't mean that
it's not going to help much.
So like that's like such a great analogy, I think, is because if you don't put in the work, you won't have the results.
It's a consistency. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a key, man.
Yeah. Which you can't fast for 3 days and be fit.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's how we want to be. Oh, like you know, but it's the annoying little. Oh, it's 5:30. I gotta get to the gym again. It's the annoying little. I'm not gonna get that dessert. You know, it's the little micro decisions that happen dozens of times a day.
Yeah. Someone told me this one day. I forget where I read it from, so I'm not trying to steal anybody's thought processes here. But success is not earned; it's rented. And the rent payment is due every single morning.
Yes.
I don't know where I read
Is that Andy
that.
Frisella?
It's somebody.
I think, or is it David Goggins?
Could be David.
Might be David Goggins, yeah.
But someone said that, and I say it to the team now, and they laugh.
That's good.
That's
a
very
really
true
good
statement.
The payment is due every day. That is really good. That's my takeaway from this talk. Yeah, that's good. Talk to me about why did you sign up for SynkedUP? You signed up this beginning of this season, correct? Yeah. Talk to me about why you did, and I think I know kind of like where your head is at. Like it makes sense with like the systems you're trying to build, but talk about that a little bit for.
Yeah, like I said, automation was like the pillar of our transition, and you know, trying to take me as the leader kind of out of the day-to-day operations, and I couldn't do that without, you know, implementing some sort of software. So being able to track the jobs, to pacify, you know, our project manager so he knew what was going on, and just, you know, making it visual was one of the biggest things. And, you know, actually quoting the jobs. See, time is a non-renewable resource for everyone. You have 24 hours in a day, I have 24 hours in a day. And there will never be another May 8th, 2025. So with that being said, the actual templates in your app make me quoting a job that much faster. So for example, planted bed maintenance, that's our mulch and spring cleanup. We probably quote 30, 40 of them a year. And if it takes me 20 minutes to make a proposal every single time, that's a lot of time.
It is.
So with the template, I have everything I need for that job. We usually utilize the same things in each software. Boom. Plug in the information from the previous season and move on. and it takes me very quick. So that's one big thing, is just the time to turn around the proposals. Getting paid, that's one of the hardest things. So having like a credit card processing service, similar to QuickBooks, which you guys integrate with, I think I get paid almost 100% faster.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't doubt that, because like with those kinds of services, it's not that I don't have the money or I don't want to pay you. It's the, oh, I got to remember the next time I'm near my
Bank to get
yeah,
the checks.
exactly.
And, like,
yeah,
it's awesome.
it's a convenience.
It's a convenience.
Yeah.
And so that's really big for us. And, you know, bigger than that, we see how much you guys are investing into the industry. You know, going out and meeting the contractors, meeting the teams that, you know, actually use the software. And the donuts. My team really appreciated that this morning. But yeah, it's just, we see how hard you guys work, and we're a small business, big on quality, and you know, that's what you guys are. You know, you're here, and you hit the help desk and requests are answered. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I want our customer support team to hear that, because like they are amazing. They work hard. They take pride in, you know, they watch that average response time and like,
Yep.
"Man, we got it in 2 minutes again." You know, it's like, you know, I really, you know, like any business, like it's building people. It's kind of the things we've been talking about. Like, none of us can do this on our own.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to give them the credit. Because I couldn't be doing this without that. I couldn't be here right now if they weren't keeping the home fires burning in that way.
And that's the biggest thing about growing a business is, you know, making it look like you personally touched every single detail of it, but you touched nothing in a way. And that's really hard, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of skill. But once you get that ball rolling, most times it stays rolling. And as long as you kind of keep it tracking in the right way, whether that's job costing or, you know, hiring great people and building great people, that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the businesses that go from being good to great.
Yep.
And I think we're all on that own journey, and we'll make left turns, we'll have to make U-turns and come back and kind of keep going. But like I said, success isn't linear, and as long as you don't give up, you know, you'll become successful at some point.
Yeah. As long as you pay the price of failure, and the currency is learning.
Yep.
You know. So when you did sign up, what was the moment? Because like when you sign up, like when you first like create your account, you're kind of still in a position of faith. Like, okay, I believe this is what I need, or what my business needs to get out of it, what I want. What was the moment where you were like, okay, yeah, okay, this is essential for my business. Like this is the thing I need. What was the thing or the moment that you felt after signing up?
Well,
what was that moment?
When we first started doing it, onboarding is, I don't want to say hard, it's time consuming.
It is.
And if you want it to give you back the information that is valuable, you have to invest the time. So in the beginning, there were some days where we were grinding our teeth like, we're confused. But we reached out to help desk and you guys squared us right back up. But what was I thinking? Like, was it the right investment? Is it the right thing for us? I think eye-opening was the opening job costing. Sitting down with the team and going, guys, we made money. You know, some people celebrate happy hour. It's like the end of the day and they're like, let's go to the bar, have a couple beers and whatever. My happy hour is sitting down at the end of the day and seeing that green X amount of dollars. That's my satisfaction. That's happy hour for me, and saying we all worked as a team and we all made money. And that was the like cemented in thing for us that was like, we actually know down to the dollars and cents what Emerson Lawn Landscape profited. And as long as we profited and estimated correctly, I get paid, the business gets paid.
Yep, and we hit our goals.
And the suppliers.
Yeah.
You can't keep going on if you don't pay.
So that visibility into like this job made money, this job didn't make money was like, okay.
Yeah.
This is
just truly understanding the metrics. And if information is not easily found, it's easily forgotten. So being able to just look back and say,
what you measure improves.
Yeah.
You know.
Just, you know, next time you build a 200 square foot patio, you can look and say, hey, on Mrs. Finkelstein's job, we made money. And this is what we charged. And when that client says to you, hey, could you do it for $15,000? You know in your mind it took you X amount of man hours, X amount of material, And when you see the break-even number, there it is.
Yeah.
There's
There's no
no
arguing. There's no fluff.
arguing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be in your mind saying, I could do it for less. Probably one of the most eye-opening things, and I know we'll wrap it up here shortly,
Yeah.
but we did a job right up the street, and they had another service provider do all the pruning this year. And we just came in and did the mulch. And they're like, hey, like, do you know what the discount amount is going to be for you not doing the pruning? And I was like, in my mind, I was like, don't say a number right yet, Aaron. I'm like, go look at SynkedUP and make sure that you give them the right price. Really glad I didn't tell them a price, because in my mind, I would have been doing less. I would have actually gave them my money in a way. And again, it just cemented in for us that the software, as long as you onboard it correctly and input your numbers, it'll tell you. It will not let you lose money. It will smack you in the face and tell you, no.
Then it's up to you to believe it.
That's up to you to believe it. You certainly can override it, but it will definitely.
It'll tell you where the break even is.
It's the speed bump in the parking lot that you shouldn't go over quick.
Yeah. And I joke that knowing that break even on every quote you send out is like confidence in a pill.
Yeah.
Because it prevents you from doing self-sabotaging.
And also building the budget with, remind me of his name.
Chris Cooper?
Chris Cooper.
Yes.
Putting in that unbillable hours a day, and also just, kind of having that protection if you do maybe underbid a job. If you're priced high enough, at least you may not make a ton of money, but you're not going to lose money. That all those things are tied into your overhead. And I actually put that in there because I said that to Chris, is that I'm like, sometimes we don't always hit our metrics. And I was like, I'm a little concerned about that. He's like, hey, let's add a piece into your overhead, misestimated jobs. And it's helped. So just having a team that supports us, and I support my team, and in a way, I view you as a partner with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we like SynkedUP.
That's awesome. And I would say a lot of people, like when we get people reaching out to, it's like, they might be at 150,000 their first year, or I've even had people that are almost $1 million tell me, or even over $1 million, tell me that, oh yeah, well, we're too small. Like we don't need a system like this. Is for bigger guys with multiple crews and all of that. And I'm like, well, so I like to ask people that are like in that $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 range, like where do you see the value? Like why is it worth paying good money for a product like this, when technically you could do it on spreadsheets? You could do a lot of it on spreadsheets and different things.
I think the value comes into, what you see as valuable. And one thing I see is just having everything kind of in one place. And granted, we need to still, iron out some kinks, like getting the reoccurring schedule set up and things like that. But, like you said, $6,000 a year for software is relatively expensive, but if you can make like $36,000 a year off of that $6,000 a year, then it really doesn't matter. And it's a cost of doing business. And in the book Profit First, like he builds it off of Dave Ramsey a lot, but he always says, like, yes, you want to be out of debt, yes, you want to save money, but don't do it at the cost of growing your business. And if you ask me, being able to price my jobs better, recover my overhead easier, and facilitate automation to my teams, it's just the cost of doing business. It's like paying rent on the
shop. $1 to it brings 10 back to you, or whatever. In theory,
as long as you're getting the lead flow, it makes sense.
That's right.
And,
that's right. As long as you're getting the lead flow, it's like an oxygen, or it's like a turbo on the engine. It's just help you get more out of that same fuel, same oxygen. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. What would you say to the people that? This is another thing we hear a lot is, well, I'm not a tech guy, or I don't use technology much or apps much. Like, I'm just kind of pen and paper, old school. Yeah. What would you say to that?
I would just say that, like, yes, the app takes time and effort to understand, but with the setup you're talking about rolling out, the pause and stop, like, it's not rocket science. Like, it's, if you really want to know your metrics, you really want to know what's going on behind the scenes of your business, you'll learn. Like, that's where it's at. Like, if you want to get in shape, you will get in shape. If you want to become profitable, you'll put the work in. And There's some people who say they want to do something and they'll fall short, and then there's other people that will just figure it out. And
Just do it. Yep.
And I think that if you're truly serious about knowing, you'll learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, where can people find you and follow along your journey?
You can find us online. You can find us at www.emersonlawnlandscape.com. And social media, we're on Facebook and Instagram. And we're trying to get a content team so we can start doing YouTube.
Nice. And the handle on social media is Emerson Lawn and Landscape?
Yep.
And is it spelled out all one, like?
Yep, it's all one, Emerson Lawn Landscape.
Okay, right on.
And then Facebook is just Dubsy, Emerson Lawn Landscape.
Okay,
Dubsy.
okay.
Apparently there's another Emerson Lawn and Landscape
Oh, interesting.
out in like the middle of nowhere, Oregon or something.
Okay. Well, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. Appreciate you giving me the time and the opportunity to kind of meet your team and kind of see your operation. Like I was telling you before we were recording, like it's one of the most fun things I get to do. So
Yeah.
appreciate that a lot.
No, man. Thanks for making the trip out here. I know it's a little bit away from home.
Absolutely. No, it's a lot of, it's worth me doing it because it helps me, it's inspiring, and it helps me kind of do a quarter turn and get my head screwed on straight again with like what we need to be working on or focusing on. So appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother. Thank
Okay?
you.
You betcha.